Hello, you may not believe what I want to say about this, but let's first listen to it.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're exploring something really cool a class all about using color in visual storytelling.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's right up our listeners' alley, too.
Yeah.
You know, they're always keen on picking up new skills, and this class is all about like practical
Let's
color
go
techniques.
forward.
Yeah.
Like imagine our listener is working with a photo of their pet. The warm-up questions might ask, what 3 words describe your pet's
And experiences.
Precisely. And who knows, maybe this class will even inspire you to explore other creative avenues. Maybe you'll start taking more photos, experimenting with different art.
This class was one of my classes, and this podcast was about the class. You may not believe this, but I made this podcast without renting any studio, and I produced it in less than 1 day, even less than 1 hour. So, if you have a weblog and you want to produce podcast for the posts, do you have a shop and you want to make some interesting podcasts about the products? Do you have some comic or illustration art and you want to make a podcast about the story of that? Are you interested in reading but sometimes you prefer to listen to that, for example when you are driving or when you are walking? Do you have a digital product or course that you want to produce podcasts for that? Or do you know any brand or any friend's brand that they might ask you to produce podcasts for them? Or no, you are a student or a teacher and you want to make some interesting, interactive podcasts for the study materials to learn better. So in general, are you interested to repurpose your content into podcast format? You might say yes, but I don't have equipment, I can't rent studio, or there are many podcasts that I want to produce. Then me, Hadis Maliki, enters with a solution. This solution don't ask you to have any recording equipment. You don't need any studio. You don't need to invite any narrator or voice actor. You don't need any script editing. This solution is for situations that you want a dialogue as a repurpose of your contents. This solution is not for when you want to have a podcast that is based on inviting real guests. And this solution is not for situations that you follow a podcast that is an influencer or a person or a specialist that talk about a certain topic and you follow the podcast because of that person. So this solution is just for repurposing content. And as a bonus, I will teach you how to edit the final audio. Now I am looking at my blog to choose a post to turn it into a podcast. You please also think about what do you want to turn it into a podcast. As I am listening to the podcast, please think about what you want to turn into podcast, and I see you in the class.
All right, ready to dive into something fun. We're talking custom GIFs on Instagram stories.
Oh, cool.
See you.
You know, those awesome